Hey everyone, back at it again for episode 4. Today we're going to jump right back into Premiere Pro. I'm going to show you how I start pulling selects for sequences and start putting together a rough cut. I'm also going to show you how I export that rough cut. But as always, less talking, more doing, let's get it. Open up Premiere and save it in your projects folder. If you've been watching the other episodes, then you already know how to do this. Let's go ahead and drag our footage into the project window. Once we have that, we are going to create a sequence. We can just use the custom one we created and saved in episode 2. Name it and hit OK. It's always best to stay organized from the start, so let's make sure to create and name folders properly. If you open your footage folder and you see that the naming convention is off, just click the name icon in the project window to reorder the footage starting with the first clip. Double click the first clip to add it to the source window. This window is basically just a place to preview your footage before it enters the timeline. You can scroll through the clip and use the in and out markers to select the areas that you want to keep. You can also do this by using the keyboard shortcut I for in and O for out. Once you've selected the portion of footage that you want to keep, you can then drag the footage into the timeline. The source window gives you the option to drag the video and audio separately, but if you want to drag the entire clip with both video and audio combined, just click and drag on the source preview window itself. Remember to keep existing settings when prompted. Your first clip has now been added to the timeline and will show up on playback in the program monitor. Go ahead and repeat the step with the next clip. The intention is to select the parts of the clip that you want to keep. One thing to keep in mind is the playback resolution. Under the program monitor, you can change this to playback in full res, half res, and quarter res. When in the timeline, if you use the keyboard shortcut O, you can select the out point. The placement of the in point and the placement of the out point determine the length of the sequence. Once you have all the selects pulled for the footage, duplicate the sequence and rename it roughcut_A. Double-click the newly created sequence and delete all of its contents. You can now import your music, double-click it to add it to the source window, and drag into your timeline. Next, move the select sequence timeline below the rough cut sequence. You can now simply drag the clips from your select sequence into your rough cut sequence. Once you are ready to export, set your desired out point. Go to File, Export, Media. A dialog box will appear, allowing you to choose your export settings. You have the ability to adjust these settings and create a custom export preset. However, in most cases, this isn't necessary, as most of the time I export as an H.264 codec using the Vimeo 1080p Full HD preset. Vimeo will compress any file that's larger, so I find it works great to use the Adobe preset. Once that is set, go ahead and click Q in the bottom of the dialog box. Adobe Media Encoder will automatically open with your file ready for export. You can double check your settings in this window and choose the output path for the video. When you are ready to export, hit the green arrow at the top right of the window. Exporting directly out of Premiere Pro is available, but by doing it this way, you have the ability to continue working on the project or other projects while the video is rendering. Once the export is done, navigate to the output destination to make sure everything worked properly. That's it for today, guys. I hope this gives you some insight into my workflow. A lot of companies I've worked for use this exact same method. At the end of the day, it's whatever works best for you, but my biggest piece of advice is just to stay organized. You're gonna thank yourself if you have to come back to a project a year or two later. Again, my piece of advice, take it or leave it, but as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.